I pulled my threadbare coat tighter as I walked up the stone steps to Amanda's parents' house, my worn shoes clicking against the concrete. My son Tyler had no idea I earned $50,000 a month as a corporate consultant. For 30 years I'd lived simply wanting him to build his own life without relying on my money. Tonight I dressed in my oldest clothes to test how his wife's family treated someone they thought was poor. But the moment Amanda opened that heavy oak door and saw me standing there, her face went completely white. She grabbed my arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my sleeve. Her mother appeared behind her, and both women stared at me with identical expressions of shock and something else I couldn't quite place: recognition. Amanda's grip on my arm tightened as she practically yanked me away from the entrance. Her mother, a tall woman with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, stepped aside to let us pass. Amanda's smile looked frozen on her face as she called over her shoulder in a voice that sounded too bright, too cheerful. "Mom, I just need to show Justine where the powder room is. We'll be right back." But instead of leading me to any bathroom, Amanda pulled me through a side hallway and into what looked like a home office. She shut the door behind us and leaned against it, her chest rising and falling rapidly. I tried to maintain my confused, simple demeanor, but something in her eyes made my stomach clench. "I know who you are," she said quietly. My heart started pounding. I kept my face neutral, my voice soft and uncertain. "I don't understand, dear. We've met before at the wedding. Don't play games with me." Amanda crossed her arms, her expression hardening. 3 years ago, I worked as a receptionist at the Grand Marquis Hotel downtown. You came there for business conferences. Multiple times. I saw you, Justine. I saw you in designer suits that cost more than I made in a month. I saw executives treating you like royalty. I watched you being escorted to the penthouse suites. The air seemed to leave my lungs. Of all the possibilities I'd imagined for tonight, this had never crossed my mind. "I saw your name on the VIP guest list," Amanda continued, her voice getting sharper. "Justine Morrison, corporate consultant, executive platinum member. So don't stand there in that ridiculous coat pretending to be some poor, struggling mother." I opened my mouth to explain, but she cut me off with a raised hand. "Why are you doing this? Does Tyler know who you really are?" Her eyes narrowed. "Or have you been lying to him his entire life?" The accusation hit me like a physical blow. I wanted him to be independent. I wanted him to make his own way without relying on my money. I never lied. I just never told him everything. "That's the same thing," Amanda snapped. She paced the small office, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Then she stopped and turned to face me, and I saw calculation replace the anger in her eyes. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go out there and continue this little poor act of yours through dinner. You're going to let my parents see exactly what you want them to see. And if I don't, then I'll tell Tyler right now that you've been lying to him for 30 years. I'll make sure he understands that you never trusted him enough to share the truth about your life, your success, your wealth. I'll destroy whatever relationship you think you have with him." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Or you can play along, and maybe we can work something out that benefits everyone." I felt trapped, caught in the web of my own deception. "What do you want?" "I haven't decided yet, but I'm sure we'll figure something out." She opened the door and gestured for me to follow. "Come on, dinner's waiting." The dining room was elegant, but cold, all white walls and crystal chandeliers. Tyler stood when we entered, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Mom, I was getting worried." "Sorry, sweetheart, just needed a moment." I kissed his cheek, my heart aching at how innocent he looked, how trusting. Amanda's father, Harold, sat at the head of the table. He was a large man with thinning gray hair and small, calculating eyes. His handshake was too firm, lingering too long. Amanda's mother, Patricia, took my coat with a thin smile that never touched her eyes. "So nice to finally meet Tyler's mother," Patricia said, hanging my coat on a rack near the door. "Tyler has told us so little about you." We sat down to dinner, and almost immediately, Harold started asking questions. Where did I work? How long had I lived in my apartment? What did I do for money? Each question felt like a probe searching for weakness. I answered carefully, keeping my voice humble, describing my modest life in vague terms. But Harold kept pushing, and Patricia made small cutting comments about people who struggle and those who haven't had our advantages. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Dad, Harold, maybe we could talk about something else." "Nonsense," Harold said, waving his fork. "I'm just getting to know your mother. It's important for family to understand each other." He turned back to me. "You know, Justine, I work with a wonderful charity organization. We help unfortunate elderly women who are having difficulty managing their finances. It's such important work." "That's very kind of you," I said, keeping my voice meek. "I'd be happy to connect you with them," Harold continued. "They provide all sorts of services: financial planning, daily living assistance, even legal support for those who need it." Something about the way he said legal support made my skin crawl. Amanda jumped in, then her voice dripping with false concern. "That's such a generous offer, Dad. I'm sure Mom Justine would appreciate any help she could get." She looked directly at me, her eyes hard despite her sweet smile. "We just want to make sure you're taken care of." The threat in those words was unmistakable. I forced myself to smile back to nod gratefully, while inside I felt everything spiraling out of control. After dinner, as Tyler helped clear the dishes, Patricia cornered me in the hallway. "Amanda told us about your situation," she said in a low voice. "My situation?" "Your confusion. Your difficulty managing things." She patted my arm in a way that felt more possessive than comforting. "Don't worry. Harold has helped so many women just like you. Women who seem fine on the surface, but need guidance to protect them from themselves." I stared at her realization dawning. Amanda had already told them something, already started building whatever trap she was setting. When Tyler drove me home that night, he was quiet. Finally, he said, "Mom, are you okay? Amanda's parents seemed really concerned about you." "I'm fine, honey, just tired." But he didn't look convinced, and I knew Amanda had already begun poisoning his mind against me. 2 days later, I was making coffee in my small kitchen when someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Amanda standing in the hallway, perfectly dressed in a cream-colored suit carrying a leather folder. I considered not answering, but she knocked again, harder this time. I opened the door. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. She looked around my modest living room with undisguised contempt. The furniture was old but comfortable, the decorations simple. This was the life Tyler had always known me to live. A life carefully constructed to hide the truth. Amanda sat on my couch without being invited and opened her folder. "I've been busy since our dinner." "Amanda, please, can't we just forget about all this?" "Forget?" She laughed, a sharp sound. "Justine, you have no idea what you've walked into. See, after I recognized you at the hotel 3 years ago, I got curious. I did some research. I found out about your consulting business, your client list, your income, and then I found out something even more interesting." She pulled out a document and handed it to me. It was a marriage certificate. Tyler and Amanda's marriage certificate. The date made my blood run cold. They'd gotten married 6 months before Tyler had even introduced her to me. "I married your son before he ever told you about me," Amanda said calmly. "I'd already done my homework. I knew he came from money, even if he didn't know it himself. His education, his opportunities, they all pointed to someone supporting him. I just had to wait to confirm it was you." "You married him for money," the words came out as a whisper. "I married him for opportunity. And now that opportunity has arrived." She pulled out more papers. "My father Harold specializes in elder financial management. My mother Patricia runs a senior support network. Together they've built quite a successful business helping elderly people protect their assets. Helping them or stealing from them." Amanda's smile was cold. "That's such an ugly way to put it. They provide legitimate legal services, guardianships, conservatorships, financial management for those who can no longer handle their own affairs." The implication hit me like ice water. I'm perfectly capable of handling my own affairs. "Are you?" Amanda leaned forward. "You've been living a double life for 30 years. You've deceived your own son. You came to our house pretending to be poor to test us. That doesn't sound like someone making rational decisions." "That's not the same as being incompetent." "Isn't it? Because I've already explained to my parents that you're suffering from early dementia, that you've been exhibiting signs of mental instability, delusions of grandeur, paranoia, deception. They're very concerned about you, Justine. I sank into a chair, my legs suddenly weak. Tyler would never believe that. Wouldn't he? Amanda pulled out her phone and showed me a text conversation, messages between her and Tyler, her expressing worry about me. Tyler admitting I'd been acting strange lately. Him saying maybe I did need help. You've been manipulating him. I've been preparing him for the truth, that his mother needs help managing her life and her money. She stood up and walked to my window looking out at the street below. Here's what's going to happen. My father is going to file paperwork to become your legal guardian. It's a simple process, really. We'll present evidence of your mental decline, your poor decision-making, your inability to manage your affairs properly. I'll fight it. With what lawyer? On what grounds? That you're actually perfectly sane, but have been lying to your son for 3 decades. That makes you sound worse, not better. She turned back to me. Tyler will testify. He'll tell the court about your strange behavior, your secretive nature, your recent odd claims about being wealthy. The court will see a confused, elderly woman who needs protection. And then what, you steal my money? We manage it, legally, for your own good. You'll receive an allowance enough to live comfortably. The rest will be invested and managed by my father's firm. Everyone wins. Except me. You'll be taken care of. Amanda walked to the door, then paused. You have 48 hours to think about this. Either you cooperate, voluntarily sign over power of attorney to my father, and we do this the easy way, or we do it the hard way, through the courts with Tyler testifying against you. Your choice. She left, and I sat in the growing darkness of my apartment, my carefully constructed life crumbling around me. I tried calling Tyler that evening, but he didn't answer. I left a message asking him to come over, that I needed to talk to him about something important. He texted back an hour later saying he was busy but would try to stop by tomorrow. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying Amanda's words, seeing the trap closing around me. Every option seemed to lead to disaster. If I told Tyler the truth, I'd have to admit to decades of deception. If I didn't, Amanda would use my silence against me. The next morning I decided I had to tell him everything. I had to trust that our relationship was strong enough to survive the truth. I got dressed, practiced what I would say, and headed to Tyler's house. But when I arrived, I heard voices through the window. Tyler was on the phone and I could hear Patricia's voice on speaker. I'm just so worried about her. Patricia was saying, her voice thick with fake concern. Amanda has been telling us about the strange things Justine's been saying. Claims about being wealthy, paranoid thoughts that were trying to hurt her. It's classic cognitive decline. I don't know, Tyler said, and my heart broke at the confusion in his voice. She's always been a little secretive, but this seems different. That's exactly what we're seeing. The secrecy getting worse, turning into delusions and paranoia. Tyler, dear, I know this is hard to hear, but your mother might need professional help, an evaluation at least. You really think so? I've seen this before. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Harold has connections with some excellent doctors. Maybe we could arrange for someone to talk to her. Just to be safe. Through the window I saw Tyler run his hand through his hair, a gesture he'd made since childhood when he was stressed. I guess that makes sense. I mean, if she really is having problems, I'd want to catch it early. That's exactly right. You're such a good son. I backed away from the window, my hand over my mouth to stifle the sound of my own breathing. Amanda had already gotten to him. Anything I said now would sound like exactly what Patricia had described: delusions, paranoia, the confused ramblings of someone losing their grip on reality. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I needed evidence. I needed to prove I was competent, successful, in complete control of my faculties. But my laptop at home had all my work files, my client contracts, everything that could prove who I really was. When I got to my apartment, I knew immediately that someone had been inside. Nothing was obviously out of place, but small things were different. A drawer not quite closed, papers on my desk slightly rearranged. My laptop was where I'd left it, but when I tried to turn it on, it wouldn't boot. The screen stayed black dead. My heart racing, I checked my files. My backup hard drive was gone. The folder where I kept printed copies of important contracts was empty. They'd been in my home. They'd destroyed my evidence. I was still staring at my dead laptop when someone knocked on my door. My whole body went tense, but when I looked through the peephole, I saw Tyler standing there, and behind him, Harold, Patricia, and another man I didn't recognize. I opened the door slowly. "Tyler, what's going on?" "Mom, these people just want to help." Tyler's face was creased with worry. "Amanda's parents brought a doctor who specializes in senior wellness. Can he just talk to you for a few minutes?" The stranger stepped forward, offering his hand. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm Dr. Richard Bentley. I'm a geriatric specialist. Your family has expressed some concerns, and I'd just like to have a friendly conversation with you." "I don't need a doctor. I'm perfectly fine." Patricia made a soft, sympathetic sound. "That's what everyone says, dear. But it's better to be safe than sorry." They came inside without waiting for permission. Harold immediately started looking around my apartment, his eyes cataloging everything. "Doctor." Bentley sat down and opened a tablet, pulling up what looked like a questionnaire. "Let's start simple," he said, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can you tell me what day it is?" "It's Thursday, November 14th. "And who is the current president?" I answered his questions, each one more insulting than the last. What year was I born? Could I count backward from 100 by sevens? Did I know where I was? Then he started asking about my daily life. Did I have trouble managing my finances? Did I ever feel confused about time or place? Had I made any unusual purchases lately? "No, I'm perfectly capable of managing everything." "That's good to hear." He made notes on his tablet. "Your son mentioned you've been making some claims about having significant wealth. Can you tell me about that?" I glanced at Tyler, who looked away. "I do have money. I'm a corporate consultant. I earn a good living." Dr. Bentley and Harold exchanged a look. "What companies do you consult for?" I listed several, but without my laptop or files I couldn't provide proof. It sounded hollow even to my own ears. "And you earn how much from this consulting work?" "About $50,000 a month." Patricia made that sound again, that soft, sympathetic noise that made me want to scream. Dr. Bentley wrote something on his tablet. "Mrs. Morrison, I notice you live very modestly for someone with that level of income. Can you explain why?" "I choose to live simply. I save and invest most of my money." "I see. And you've kept this wealth secret from your son for his entire life." "I wanted him to be independent." "But that's not really independence, is it?" Dr. Bentley's voice was gentle, but his words cut deep. "That's control, manipulation, keeping secrets from the people who love you while claiming it's for their own good." "That's not fair," I said, but my voice shook. Harold stepped forward, then holding something. My Hermes handbag, the one expensive item I'd forgotten to hide away. "We found this in your closet, Justine. Do you know how much a bag like this costs?" "It was a gift from a client." "It costs $12,000, Harold said. "And yet you claim to live modestly. This suggests a disconnect between your stated values and your actual behavior. Classic confusion about financial priorities." I looked at Tyler desperately. "Honey, you have to believe me. I'm not confused. I'm not sick. These people are trying to manipulate you." But Tyler just looked sad. "Mom, why would Amanda's parents want to hurt you? They're just trying to help." Dr. Bentley stood up. "Mr. Morrison, I'm going to recommend that your mother undergo a full psychiatric evaluation. The combination of financial secrecy delusions about her income level and paranoid accusations against people trying to help her suggests we need a more thorough assessment." "No," I said firmly. "I don't consent to any evaluation. I want all of you to leave my home right now." "The resistance to help is another concerning sign," Dr. Bentley said, making more notes. After they left, I tried to pull myself together. I needed my phone to call a lawyer to contact someone who could help. But when I picked it up from the coffee table, Patricia appeared at my elbow. "Let me help you with that, dear," she said, reaching for it. I pulled back, but the phone slipped from my grip. It hit the floor and the screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. "Oh no," Patricia said, but her voice held no real concern. "How clumsy of me. Harold dear, we should get Justine a new phone. We can pick one up tomorrow." "That's not necessary," I said, kneeling to pick up the broken phone. The screen was dark, unresponsive. "Don't be silly. We can't have you without a working phone. What if there's an emergency?" Harold picked up the broken phone. "I'll take this to see if I can retrieve your contacts and photos. Wouldn't want you to lose anything important." They left with my phone, leaving me truly isolated. No computer, no phone, no way to reach my business contacts or my lawyer. That night alone in my apartment, I finally let myself cry. Not because I was giving up, but because I was so angry. Angry at myself for creating this situation. Angry at Amanda for exploiting it. Angry at Harold and Patricia for being predators who targeted vulnerable people. But vulnerability, I realized, was what they'd made me. I wasn't actually vulnerable. I was successful, capable, financially secure. They'd just managed to make everyone else see me as helpless. I went to sleep planning my next move. Tomorrow I'd go buy a new phone. I'd contact my business partner Marcus. I'd find a lawyer who specialized in elder law. I'd fight back. But when I woke up Friday morning, I found a notice taped to my door. A court summons. Harold had filed for emergency guardianship, claiming I was a danger to myself. The hearing was set for the following Tuesday, 5 days away. Tyler was listed as the primary witness supporting the petition. My son was going to testify against me in court. I spent Friday calling every lawyer in the phone book from my new cell phone. Most were too busy to take a case on such short notice. Those who had time wanted retainers. I couldn't access because my bank had frozen my accounts pending the guardianship hearing. Someone had convinced them I might be incompetent. By Friday evening, I was desperate. That's when I found David Chen, a public defender who agreed to help pro bono. We met at a coffee shop Saturday morning. David was young, probably in his early 30s, with tired eyes and a briefcase that had seen better days. He listened to my story occasionally, making notes on a legal pad. "This is bad," he said finally. "These guardianship cases are really hard to fight, especially when family members testify against you. And the timeline is brutal. 5 days isn't enough to build a proper defense." "What do I need?" "Evidence of your competence. Bank statements showing your income and that you manage it well. Testimony from employers or colleagues. Medical records proving you're healthy. Character witnesses." He looked at me sympathetically. "Do you have any of that?" I did. But my laptop crashed, my backup drive is gone, and my phone was destroyed. "That's convenient for them." David tapped his pen against his notepad. "Can you get duplicates? Contact your bank, your clients, your doctor." "I'm trying. But everything takes time, and we don't have time." He nodded grimly. "Then we do the best we can. I'll file a motion to delay the hearing, but I'm not optimistic. Judges take elder abuse seriously, and they'll want to act quickly if they think you're in danger. Even if the danger is fabricated. Especially then because they can't tell the difference." I spent the weekend trying to rebuild my evidence. I went to my bank, but they said it would take 3 to 5 business days to print out statements. I called clients, but most were out of town or didn't answer their weekend calls. I felt like I was running through quicksand every step, taking enormous effort while getting me nowhere. Sunday evening, Amanda sent me a text from a new number I didn't recognize. "Last chance. Sign the papers, let Dad manage your money, and this all goes away. Keep fighting and you'll lose everything." I didn't respond. Monday morning, I woke to the sound of sirens. Police cars were parked outside my building. My heart raced as I threw on clothes and ran downstairs. Patricia was standing on the sidewalk talking to 2 police officers, her face a mask of concern. When she saw me, she pointed. "There she is. Thank goodness you're all right." "What's going on?" I asked. One of the officers, a young woman with kind eyes, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we got a call that you made threats of self-harm. We need to ask you a few questions." "What? I never said anything like that." "That's what I was afraid of," Patricia said, wringing her hands. "Officer, as I explained, Justine's been having some confusion lately. She called me last night very distraught, saying things that worried me. I was concerned she might hurt herself. That's a lie, I said. My phone was destroyed. I couldn't have called anyone. The officer made a note. Do you have your phone with you now? I pulled out my new phone, the one I'd bought Friday. This is new. My old one was broken. So you did get a new phone, Patricia said. See, officer? She's confused about whether she has a phone or not. The officer looked at me with concern. Ma'am, have you been feeling depressed? Having thoughts of harming yourself? No, absolutely not. This woman is lying. I understand you're upset, the officer said gently. But we have to take all threats seriously. Would you be willing to talk to a crisis counselor? I don't need a counselor. I need these people to leave me alone. They asked me more questions, documented everything, and finally left. But the damage was done. Patricia had created an official police report documenting my supposed suicidal statements and my confusion about having a phone. It would be Exhibit A in court. I went back to my apartment and called David. They're setting me up, creating false evidence. I believe you, he said. But proving it in court is different. It's your word against theirs, and they're building a pattern. The doctor's evaluation, the police report, your son's concerns. It's all circumstantial, but together, it paints a picture. Of someone who's incompetent. Yes. What are my chances? He was quiet for a moment. Without solid evidence of your competence and their fraud. Not good. Maybe 20%. That night, Tyler came to see me. He'd been crying, his eyes red and swollen. Mom, I don't want to do this. But Amanda and her parents have shown me so much. The police report, the doctor's evaluation, the way you're acting. I'm scared you're really sick and you don't even know it. I took his hands. Tyler, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. I'm not sick. I'm successful. I make $50,000 a month as a corporate consultant. I own my own business. I've been lying about being poor because I wanted you to grow up independent, not reliant on my money. But I'm not delusional. I'm not confused. I'm being targeted by people who want to steal my wealth. He looked at me with such sadness, such pity. Mom, that's exactly what Amanda said you'd say. She warned me you'd come up with an elaborate story about being rich. She said it's part of the delusion, the fantasy world you've created to cope with not being successful. It's not a fantasy, it's the truth. Then prove it. Show me your bank accounts, your business contracts, anything. I can't. My laptop is broken, my files are gone, my accounts are frozen. Don't you see? They've isolated me, destroyed my evidence, made it so anything I say sounds crazy. Tyler pulled his hands away. Or you never had any evidence because none of it is real. Please don't do this. Don't testify against me. I have to. If you really are sick, if you really do need help, then I'm the only one who can make sure you get it. Amanda told me that if I don't help now, you might hurt yourself. I can't risk that. He left, and I stood in my empty apartment completely alone. My son, the person I loved most in the world, thought I was delusional, and in 2 days he would stand in court and help strangers take everything I'd built. I sat on the floor and let myself feel the full weight of despair. Then I made myself get up. Giving up wasn't an option. I had one more day to find evidence to build a defense to save myself. I just had no idea how. Tuesday morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed in my best clothes, a simple black suit I'd owned for years, and met David outside the courthouse. He looked even more tired than before. I couldn't get the delay, he said. The judge wants to move forward today. Inside the courtroom, Harold sat at a table with 2 expensive-looking lawyers. Patricia sat behind them, perfectly composed. Amanda and Tyler sat in the gallery, Amanda whispering constantly in Tyler's ear. The judge, a severe woman in her 60s named Judge Walsh, called the hearing to order. Harold's lead lawyer, a man named Garrett Thompson, stood to present their case. Your Honor, we're here today because Mrs. Justine Morrison is suffering from a tragic decline in her cognitive function. She's become a danger to herself, unable to manage her finances or make rational decisions. We have evidence of delusional thinking, paranoid accusations, and behavior that puts her at risk. He presented the doctor's evaluation with Dr. Bentley's notes about my claims of wealth and my resistance to help. He showed the police report from Sunday, with Patricia's statement about my supposed threats and my confusion about having a phone. He brought up the expensive handbag, framing it as evidence of reckless spending. Then Tyler took the stand, and my heart broke all over again. "Mr. Morrison, how long have you noticed changes in your mother's behavior?" Thompson asked. "A few weeks maybe," Tyler said quietly. "She started saying strange things, claiming she had money she'd never mentioned before, getting paranoid about Amanda's family." "And what was her financial situation during your childhood?" "We struggled. Mom worked low-wage jobs cleaning offices, waiting tables. We lived in small apartments. She could barely afford my school supplies sometimes." Tyler's voice cracked. "That's why when she started claiming she was wealthy, I knew something was wrong. She would never have let us struggle if she had money." It was a reasonable conclusion. The trap I'd built for myself sprung with perfect precision. Thompson asked more questions, painting a picture of a woman who'd suddenly developed delusions of grandeur, who'd become paranoid and unstable. When he finished, David cross-examined, but there wasn't much he could do. Tyler believed what he was saying. His testimony was honest, just based on false information. Dr. Bentley testified next, using medical terminology to describe my supposed cognitive decline. He talked about how elderly people sometimes create elaborate fantasies to cope with feelings of inadequacy, how delusions of wealth were common in certain types of dementia. During a recess, David pulled me aside. "I'm sorry, Justine. This isn't going well. We need something concrete, some evidence that proves you're telling the truth." "I don't have anything." They made sure of that. When court resumed, David put me on the stand. I tried to explain about my consulting business, my clients, my income, but without documentation, without proof, it sounded exactly like what they'd said. It would sound like a fantasy. Thompson cross-examined me brutally. "Mrs. Morrison, isn't it true that you've been lying to your son for 30 years? "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell him about my income." "A lie of omission is still a lie, isn't it?" "I suppose." "And isn't it true that you deliberately deceived your daughter-in-law's family, pretending to be poor when you first met them?" "I wanted to see how they treated people they thought had nothing." "So you tested them, manipulated them. That shows a pattern of deception, doesn't it?" "That's not the same as being incompetent. Isn't it you've spent 30 years living a double life, hiding the truth from your own son, and now you're facing the consequences of those lies? Doesn't that suggest poor judgment at the very least?" I couldn't answer. He was right. My deception had created this situation. Even my truth sounded like a lie. Judge Walsh called another recess for lunch. I sat in the courthouse cafeteria, unable to eat, watching everything I'd built crumble around me. My business, my independence, my relationship with Tyler, all of it about to be handed over to predators. I thought about Amanda's offer. Sign the papers, give Harold control, accept an allowance. At least I'd still have something. At least Tyler wouldn't completely hate me. But then I thought about the other victims David had mentioned, elderly people, who'd lost everything to schemes like this. If I gave up, Harold and Patricia would keep doing this to others. I pulled out my new phone and tried one last thing. I called Marcus, my business partner. We'd built our consulting firm together 15 years ago. If anyone could help me now, it was him. "Justine, I've been trying to reach you for days. Where have you been?" Relief washed over me at the sound of his familiar voice. "Marcus, I'm in trouble. I need help." I quickly explained the situation, the guardianship hearing, the way they'd destroyed my evidence, the fact that Tyler didn't even know about our business. "Tyler doesn't know," Marcus sounded shocked. "Justine, you're one of the most respected consultants in the industry. How does your son not know?" I kept it from him. I wanted him to be independent. "That's," he paused. "Well, we can talk about that later. Right now, you need help. Where are you?" "The county courthouse. The hearing resumes in an hour." "I'm 20 minutes away." I'm coming there right now and I'm bringing everything. Contracts, financial statements, client testimonials, everything that proves who you are. Hope tiny and fragile flickered in my chest. Can you really get here in time? I'll make it. Just stall them if you can. When court resumed, David requested more time to present additional evidence. Thompson objected, strongly arguing that we'd had 5 days to prepare, and this was just a delay tactic. Judge Walsh looked annoyed. Mr. Chen, this hearing has already taken all day. What additional evidence could you possibly present? Your Honor, I have a witness who can provide documentation of Mrs. Morrison's business activities and financial competence. He's on his way here now. How long will this take? He'll be here within the hour. Thompson stood up. Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of confused, disorganized behavior we've been describing. Mrs. Morrison has had 5 days to produce evidence. This last-minute scrambling suggests she's making things up as she goes along. I'm inclined to agree, Judge Walsh said. Mr. Chen, if your witness isn't here in exactly 1 hour, I'm making my ruling based on what I've already heard. That hour felt like the longest of my life. I watched the clock, praying Marcus would make it. Amanda kept glancing back at me with a smug expression. Harold and Patricia sat calmly confident in their victory. With 10 minutes to spare, the courtroom doors opened. Marcus walked in carrying a large briefcase, slightly out of breath but smiling when he saw me. David called him to the stand immediately. Marcus stated his name and occupation: Marcus Levine, co-founder and partner of Morrison Levine Consulting. Thompson objected. Your Honor, we had no notice of this witness. Neither did I until 40 minutes ago, David said. But Mr. Levine has evidence directly relevant to Mrs. Morrison's competence. Judge Walsh looked intrigued despite herself. I'll allow it. But this better be substantial, Mr. Chen. Marcus opened his briefcase and began pulling out documents. Incorporation papers showing Justine Morrison as co-founder of Morrison Levine Consulting, established 15 years ago. Tax returns showing annual income in the 6 figures. Contracts with Fortune 500 companies. Testimonials from CEOs praising my work. He testified about our partnership, about major projects I'd led, about my reputation in the industry. He showed emails from just last week where clients were asking for me, concerned because I'd missed meetings. Mrs. Morrison is one of the most respected consultants in the corporate sector, Marcus said. She's brilliant, organized, and completely competent. The idea that she's suffering from dementia or delusions is absurd. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. Judge Walsh examined the documents carefully. Harold and Patricia looked nervous for the first time. Tyler stared at me with his mouth open. Thompson tried to recover during cross-examination. Mr. Levine, were you aware that Mrs. Morrison has kept this entire business secret from her son for 15 years? I was aware she was private about her financial situation, yes. And doesn't that strike you as odd? Doesn't that suggest someone with something to hide? It suggests someone who values her son's independence over financial dependence. It's unusual, perhaps, but not evidence of incompetence. The evidence was damning in my favor. Real documentation, concrete proof that everything I'd said was true. I watched hope bloom in David's eyes. But then Thompson stood up with a different argument, and my hope withered. Your Honor, this evidence actually proves my point more than it refutes it. Mrs. Morrison has been living a double life for 30 years. She's been systematically deceiving her own son about her career, her income, her entire professional identity. She came to my client's home in disguise, pretending to be poor, deliberately testing them. This level of deception, this degree of manipulation, suggests serious psychological issues. He turned to face the courtroom. If she's been lying about who she is for 30 years, what else is she hiding? What other deceptions has she crafted? This isn't just about financial competence. This is about a woman who's been living in a carefully constructed fantasy, and now that fantasy is collapsing. She needs oversight precisely because she's demonstrated such profound dishonesty. Judge Walsh looked troubled. Mrs. Morrison, why did you hide your success from your son? I stood up, my legs shaking. Your Honor, I made a mistake. I thought I was protecting him, teaching him independence. But I was wrong. I should have trusted him with the truth. And the deception at dinner with the parents. Another mistake. I wanted to see their character. It was manipulative and wrong. These aren't small mistakes, Mrs. Morrison. These are deliberate, sustained deceptions. That concerns me. Thompson saw his opening. Your Honor, consider this. Mrs. Morrison admits to decades of lying. Now she claims she was protecting her son, but from what his own mother's success, this is exactly the kind of twisted reasoning that suggests cognitive distortion. She needs help understanding appropriate boundaries and honesty in relationships. Tyler stood up in the gallery. Mom, is it all true? You really make that much money? I looked at my son, tears streaming down my face. Yes, every word is true. Why didn't you tell me? His voice broke. Why would you lie to me my whole life? I wanted you to stand on your own. I wanted you to be proud of what you built yourself. But I could have known you, the real you. Instead, you've been a stranger pretending to be my mother. Amanda grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. I could see her pivoting, trying to use this moment to her advantage. Judge Walsh held up her hand for silence. I need to consider all of this. The evidence of competence is compelling, but so are the concerns about judgment and honesty. Court will recess while I review everything. We waited in a small conference room. Marcus sat beside me, his presence a comfort. Why didn't you tell him? Marcus asked gently. In 15 years you never once mentioned having a son to me either. I kept everything separate, my work life, my personal life. I thought it was protecting both. It was protecting you, Marcus said, from having to explain yourself, from being vulnerable. He was right. I'd built walls so high that now I was trapped behind them. 30 minutes later, we were called back into the courtroom. My heart pounded as Judge Walsh took her seat. This is one of the most unusual cases I've encountered, she began. The evidence shows that Mrs. Morrison is clearly competent to manage her finances. Her business success speaks for itself. However, her sustained deception of her son and her manipulative behavior at the dinner raise serious concerns about her judgment in personal relationships. My hands gripped the edge of the table. That said, poor judgment in personal matters is not grounds for guardianship. Many people make bad decisions in their personal lives while remaining perfectly capable of managing their affairs. Relief started to flood through me, but Judge Walsh wasn't finished. However, I'm troubled by the sudden appearance of evidence only when faced with legal action. Mr. Levine, you say clients have been trying to reach Mrs. Morrison. Yes, Your Honor. She missed several important meetings last week. Mrs. Morrison, why didn't you simply prove your competence earlier? Why wait until you were in my courtroom? I opened my mouth, but Thompson jumped in. Because she couldn't, Your Honor. Her laptop conveniently crashed. Her files conveniently disappeared. Now she produces evidence only after her partner appears. It suggests a pattern of creating crises and manipulating situations. That's because they sabotaged my computer and stole my files, I said. Do you have proof of that? Judge Walsh asked. I didn't. It was just another claim that sounded like paranoia. Judge Walsh looked at me seriously. Mrs. Morrison, I'm not going to grant the guardianship petition. The evidence of your professional competence is too strong. But I'm ordering a full psychological evaluation by an independent examiner. If that evaluation shows evidence of personality disorders, manipulation, or other psychological issues that could impair your judgment, we'll revisit this matter. She gavelled. The hearing closed. It was a victory, but it felt hollow. Tyler left without speaking to me. Amanda shot me a look of pure hatred. Harold and Patricia left quickly, knowing their scheme had failed, but not yet defeated. Outside the courthouse, Marcus hugged me. You won. Did I? Tyler won't even look at me. Give him time. He's processing a lot. David shook my hand. That was close. Too close. You need to be careful. People like Harold and Patricia don't give up easily. He was right. Over the next few days, strange things kept happening. Someone tried to access my bank accounts again, though my bank caught it and shut it down. I got emails from clients claiming I'd sent them bizarre messages, though I'd sent nothing. Someone filed a complaint with my professional licensing board, alleging ethical violations. Each incident was minor deniable, but together they formed a pattern of harassment. They were trying to wear me down to make me seem unstable, to prove Judge Walsh right to order that evaluation. I decided I needed to fight back differently. If they were going to play dirty, I needed to expose them completely. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Sarah Brennan, who specialized in financial fraud. I need everything you can find on Harold and Patricia Mitchell, I told her. Their business practices, their previous clients, anything that shows a pattern of elder abuse. Sarah worked fast. Within 3 days, she called me with preliminary findings. Justine, these people are predators. I found 5 other cases in the past 7 years where they were involved in guardianship proceedings. In 3 of those cases, the elderly person ended up with Harold as their legal guardian. In all 3 cases, the person's assets were dramatically reduced within a year, all going to management fees paid to Harold's firm. Can we prove it? I can document the pattern. Whether that's enough to prosecute is up to the DA, but for your purposes, showing this pattern should be enough to discredit them completely. She sent me a folder of documents. Court records, financial statements, complaints, filed by the victims' families. It was devastating evidence of systematic exploitation. I called Tyler. He didn't answer. I texted him. I have proof about Amanda's parents. Please just meet me for coffee. Give me 30 minutes to explain. He texted back an hour later. Why should I believe anything you say? I wrote, because I'm your mother and I love you more than anything, and I'm begging you to give me one chance to prove I'm telling the truth. He agreed to meet me the next morning at a coffee shop near his work. I arrived early, the folder of evidence sitting on the table in front of me. When Tyler walked in, he looked exhausted. He sat down across from me but didn't order anything. Talk, he said. I pushed the folder across the table. Amanda's parents are con artists. They target elderly people with assets, manufacture evidence of incompetence, get themselves appointed as guardians, and then drain their victims' accounts through fake management fees. They've done it at least 5 times before. Tyler opened the folder and started reading. I watched his face change as he went through the documents. Shock, then anger, then something that looked like despair. Amanda knew, he said quietly. She had to have known. She married you specifically because she thought you came from money. She researched your background, figured out I was supporting you, and targeted you. But we were married 6 months before I even introduced her to you. How could she know? Your education, your opportunities, the fact that you never seemed to worry about money even though you said we were poor. She put it together. Tyler put his head in his hands. I testified against you. I almost helped them steal everything from you. You didn't know. They manipulated you just like they manipulated me. I should have trusted you. You're my mother. I should have believed you when you said you weren't sick. I gave you no reason to trust me, I said. I'd been lying to you for 30 years. Why would you believe me now? We sat in silence for a minute. Then Tyler said, Why did you do it? Why keep the money secret? I'd been asking myself the same question. I told myself it was about wanting you to be independent. But Marcus was right. It was really about protecting myself. If I told you about my success, I'd have to explain why I wasn't there more when you were young. Why I chose work over time with you. Why I let you struggle when I could have made things easier. It was easier to pretend I had no choice. I wish you'd told me. I wish I'd known the real you. So do I. But I can't change the past. I can only try to do better going forward. Tyler took the folder. What do you want to do with this? I'm giving it to the district attorney. Harold and Patricia need to be stopped before they hurt anyone else. But I need your help with something first. What? Amanda. I need to know if she was part of the conspiracy from the beginning or if her parents used her without her full knowledge. And I need to know if you're safe, if she'd go after you to get back at me. Tyler's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went pale. It's Amanda. She wants to meet tonight. Says she needs to talk to me about something important. Don't go alone, I said immediately. I have to. I need to hear what she has to say. I need to know who she really is. Then let Sarah, my investigator, set up surveillance. Please. If Amanda's as dangerous as her parents, I don't want you walking into a trap. He agreed, and we spent the rest of the morning planning. Sarah would wire Tyler with a hidden recorder and follow him to the meeting. Whatever Amanda said, we'd have proof. That evening, Tyler met Amanda at their apartment. Sarah parked outside in a surveillance van, listening to every word through Tyler's wire. I waited at home, Sarah, calling me with updates. Amanda's crying, Sarah reported, saying her parents forced her into this, that she loves Tyler and never meant for things to go this far. Do you believe her? Wait, Sarah said. She's saying something else now. Through the phone, I could hear Amanda's voice, faint but clear. Tyler, I'm pregnant. I didn't want to tell you like this, but with everything happening, you need to know. We're having a baby. My heart sank. If she was really pregnant, Tyler would be tied to her forever. But then Sarah said, Hold on. I pulled her medical records. She's not pregnant. She had her period 2 weeks ago. She's lying. Tell Tyler, I said. Tell him now. Sarah must have called or texted Tyler because a moment later I heard his voice on the recording. Amanda, are you really pregnant? Because I want to see proof, a doctor's note, a test something. Tyler, don't you trust me? No, I don't. Not anymore. Show me proof or admit you're lying. There was a long silence. Then Amanda's voice, cold and hard in a way I'd never heard before. Fine, I'm not pregnant, but I could be. I could trap you that way if I wanted to, just like I trapped you into marriage, into loving me, into almost destroying your mother for me. You admit it. Of course I admit it. You already know. Your mother won. She beat my parents in court. She's going to ruin them. So what's the point in pretending anymore? Did you ever love me? Amanda laughed a bitter sound. I loved your potential bank account. I loved the idea of never having to work again. Did I love you, Tyler? I barely know you. You were just a means to an end. Sarah called me. I got it. Full confession. This will destroy any credibility she has. But it would also destroy Tyler's heart. The next morning I met with the district attorney. I brought all of Sarah's evidence, the pattern of previous victims, the documentation of Harold and Patricia's fraud, and the recording of Amanda admitting to the conspiracy. The DA, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer Torres, reviewed everything carefully. This is good work, she said. I can definitely pursue charges against Harold and Patricia for elder financial abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. The recording of Amanda is helpful, but prosecuting her will be harder. She didn't actually take any money from you. What about filing false police reports? She told the police I'd threatened suicide when I hadn't. We can look into that, but our main targets should be Harold and Patricia. They're the ones who've stolen from multiple victims. Within a week, Harold and Patricia were arrested. The local news covered the story, financial advisor charged with elder abuse scheme. Several other victims came forward, people I'd never met, who'd also been targeted by the Mitchells. Tyler filed for an annulment of his marriage to Amanda based on fraud. The court granted it quickly once they heard the recording. Amanda left town soon after, back to wherever she'd come from before targeting my son. But the real work was rebuilding my relationship with Tyler. We started meeting every week for dinner, talking honestly for the first time in years. I told him about my business, my clients, the life I'd hidden from him. He told me about his struggles, his fears, the ways my secrets had affected him. I always felt like I didn't really know you, Tyler said one evening over dinner. Like you were holding something back. I thought it was because you were disappointed in me. Never, I said fiercely. I was proud of you every single day. I just didn't know how to show it without explaining everything else. You could have tried. I should have tried. I was wrong, Tyler. About all of it. The secrets, the test with Amanda's family, all of it. I was trying to control everything, and instead I almost lost everything that mattered. But you fought back. When it mattered, you didn't give up. I had to. Not just for me, but for you. And for all those other people, Harold and Patricia hurt. The psychological evaluation Judge Walsh ordered came back showing no evidence of dementia, no personality disorders, no signs of incompetence. Just as the psychologist noted poor judgment in personal relationships, stemming from excessive need for control and difficulty with vulnerability. I couldn't argue with that assessment. Marcus and I hired a crisis management firm to repair the damage to our business reputation. Several clients who'd been concerned by my sudden absence were reassured once they understood what had happened. Some even sent me notes of support. The hardest part was dealing with the guilt. Guilt over lying to Tyler for so long. Guilt over putting him in a position where he'd almost helped strangers steal from me. Guilt over not seeing Amanda's true nature sooner. But I learned something through all of it. I learned that honesty, no matter how painful, is always better than deception. I learned that protecting people by lying to them doesn't protect them at all. It just builds walls that eventually crumble and hurt everyone. I learned that trust isn't automatic even between parents and children. It has to be earned through truth, through vulnerability, through being willing to show people who you really are, flaws and all. Most importantly, I learned that real family means accepting each other completely, including the difficult truths. Tyler and I have that now. It's not perfect and we're still working through the damage my lies caused, but it's real in a way it never was before. 6 months after the trial, Tyler and I were having our weekly dinner when he said, "I'm thinking about going back to school, getting my MBA." "That's wonderful. What brought this on?" He smiled. "I realized I come from a long line of successful business people. I think it's in my blood." "You don't need my money to do it," I said carefully, still trying to navigate this new honest relationship. "You're capable of achieving anything on your own." "I know. But maybe it's okay to accept help sometimes. Maybe independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. Maybe it means knowing when to lean on the people who love you." I reached across the table and took his hand. "You're wiser than I ever was. I learned from your mistakes. That's what kids are supposed to do, right?" We laughed together, and it felt like healing. Harold and Patricia were eventually convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Several civil suits from their victims resulted in judgments that would take whatever money they had left. Amanda disappeared completely. Last Tyler heard she'd moved to another state and was working under a different name. As for me, I sold my small apartment and bought a place with room for Tyler to visit. I put photos of my work achievements on the walls next to childhood pictures of Tyler. No more hiding, no more separate lives. I still consult, still work with Fortune 500 companies, still make that same income. But now, when clients ask about my family, I tell them about my son with pride. And when Tyler introduces me to new people, he says, "This is my mom. She's one of the most successful consultants in the country." The first time he said that, I cried. Looking back, I can see how my fear of vulnerability, my need to control everything, almost destroyed the most important relationship in my life. I thought I was protecting Tyler by keeping secrets, but I was really just protecting myself from having to explain my choices, my priorities, my failures as a mother. The truth is, I wasn't there for Tyler as much as I should have been when he was growing up. I was building my career, chasing success, proving something to myself. And instead of admitting that and apologizing, I hid behind lies about poverty, about necessity, about having no choice. But I did have a choice. And I chose wrong, and that's something I have to live with. The good news is that Tyler has forgiven me. Not all at once, and not without struggle, but gradually through honest conversations and genuine effort to build something new between us. We're closer now than we ever were before, because now our relationship is based on truth instead of carefully maintained fiction. I share this story because I know I'm not the only parent who's kept secrets, who's tested people instead of trusting them, who's tried to control relationships through manipulation instead of building them through honesty. Maybe my mistakes can help someone else avoid the same pain. The hardest lies to untangle are the ones we tell to protect the people we love. But the truth, no matter how complicated or painful, will always set you free in ways that lies never can. What about you? Have you ever kept a secret from someone you love thinking you were protecting them, only to realize you were really protecting yourself? Have you ever tested someone's character instead of trusting them directly? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and consider subscribing to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges in families, workplaces, and relationships. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be struggling with their own secrets or their own need for control. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brings you some comfort to know that even when we make terrible mistakes, even when we almost lose everything that matters, there's still a chance for redemption, for healing, for building something real and honest from the blank.therake.com ruins of our deceptions. May you always have the courage to choose truth over comfort, and may the people you love always give you grace when you finally do.